Oh, graph y equals cosine of this whole mess. This is called a sinusoidal graph. Okay, sinusoidal because it is a mixture of sine and soda pop. Also sounds like a Phil Collins song. Susudio. Enough dad jokes for today. So let's try to compare this to what the actual sinusoidal picture looks like. Y equals A times whatever trig function it is that you're dealing with times, and this is where it looks kind of weird, B times theta or x minus h, close it, plus k. This is the typical graph for the sinusoidal thing. Now, what's what? A, or better yet, the absolute value A is the altitude. That's how tall my picture is. Okay? I had a previous problem where the only thing I had to worry about was the altitude. Here, the only thing I don't have to worry about is the altitude. What's B stand for? B is the period, but the way you find the period is you take 2 pi and divide it by the absolute value of B. That's my period. That's where everything repeats, okay? Now, what's H and what's K? H is the left or right phase shift. If H is positive, you move right. If H is negative, you move left, which means K is the up or down vertical phase shift. Okay, so that kind of tells me what things look like there. Here's issue number 1. This does not look like this. Why? I don't see any parentheses living inside this cosine parentheses. So in order for me to make this look like this, I have to remove that 4 from the denominator of this guy. And if I do that, I have to do the same thing from here. So although it's kind of unorthodox, what I have to do is rewrite this equation and factor out a 1 over 4 from both of these. One more time, I have to factor out a 1 over 4 from both of these. So I'm going to have cosine with the altitude invisible 1. If I factor out a 1/4, okay, that makes that just pi. If I factor out a 1/4 from pi over 4, that leaves me with just pi. Now I have minus 2. All right, so first things first, cosine look like this. We also know, based off of what I just wrote out, that my altitude is invisible 1. The height doesn't change. God is good. The period is going to be 2 pi over 1/4. Now, if I take 2 pi over 1/4, over 1/4 means I have to multiply the top and the bottom by 4, giving me a period of 8 pi. Which is why this graph that I stole from CUDA software is so long. My phase shifts. My phase shift is, since this is a positive pi, I go left pi spaces. Now, if you're like, whoa. You just said this is positive pi. Shouldn't you go right? Nope, because it's the opposite of this guy. Everything in here seems to always live in opposite land. So we're going to phase shift left 2 pi. I'm sorry, 1 pi. 1 pi. That means phase shift down 2. Okay? So I'm going to pretend that this is pi. Okay, just floating around out here. If I move left pi 2 and down 2, that makes my brand new origin right here. Now, cosine starts at 1 usually, which means my new picture is going to start here. So I'm going to draw dots as to where things should be. Now, this is going to peak out at -1 and bottom out at -3. So if a question were to ask you, well, what's my maximum, what's my minimum? My maximum is going to be -1 and my minimum is going to be -3. Now, it's going to completely repeat itself every 8 pi, which means I'm going to go all the way over to 7 pi and draw that dot again. Which means if it peaks out at negative pi and 7 pi, then it's going to bottom out here at 3 pi. It's going to go back to its normal position at 5 pi and regular pi. So basically, go 2 spaces, down 1, go 2 spaces, down 1, go 2 spaces, up 1, go 2 spaces, up 1, go 2 spaces, down 1, go 2 spaces, down 1, go 2 spaces, can't. The fun part about this problem, and the part that makes me the most nervous, is my ability to draw. So don't judge me, please, for the love of God. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Did I draw a dot here? I did. It's barely, you can't see it. Boom, and if I wanted to, So that's my picture. I'll give myself a small pat on the back. That didn't look half bad. But that's how you do it. That's how you graph a sinusoidal equation without a calculator. Sinusoidal. All right, I'm done. Bye. Like and subscribe.